Japan, a celebrated land that holds plenty of promise for every aspiring traveler. From incredible experiences to the delicious food waiting to be tasted. From unusual finds to the exotic landscapes eager to be explored. It has a little something for everyone. Japan always reveals itself in parts. As you go through this 14-day itinerary, you will find ways to uncover this island through its many different dimensions. We will also walk through some important questions like when to travel, how to travel, and ways to customize your trip. All this comes with a special price tag though, which we shall help break down and optimize towards the end. If you are planning a trip to Japan and want to get the most out of this immensely diverse country, then this video is for you. Welcome to our ultimate guide to spending 14 days in Japan. When you step into Japan, be prepared to meet a world full of contrasts and be amazed by its sensorial abundance. The taste, the textures, the sights and the smells. It can feel a lot like experiencing the comfort of meeting an old friend while also having the surprise of learning new things about them each day. All that said, Japan is one of the easiest countries to travel to. It is super organized and extremely easy to navigate if you have a general idea of where you'd want to go and what you'd like to do, which makes it an excellent choice for those who'd like to keep their travel flexible. If you're excited by the idea of exploring all that Japan has in store, then we've got you covered. So keep your notepad handy and let's get into it. Let's begin at the beginning. When to travel. Japan is a beautiful year-round destination for travel. However, the best time to visit Japan is easily spring or autumn. You will get to see this gorgeous country in all its glory with cherry blossoms or colorful autumn foliage. However, it can get more expensive and also feel pretty crowded. The second best time to visit Japan is during summer or winter. Although the weather might seem a bit extreme, it comes with a host of events and season-specific activities to try. This means you can plan your trip at a lower cost with significantly lesser crowds. The next important questions to answer is how to travel. Getting around Japan is a matter of managing your hops. Now you could take flights or drive across if you'd want to. These can turn out to be quite expensive and inefficient ways to get around. When it comes to Japan, trains are the way to go. Japan boasts of one of the fastest, safest, and the most economical high-speed railway networks in the world. This allows you to explore the lengths of this country hassle-free and keep things super flexible. Getting an access to the JR Pass allows you to access all the trains across the entire JR network as well as the Shinkansen. They might seem expensive at first glance, but the cost of a couple of hops on the Shinkansen could easily buy you a one-week pass. We recommend getting this as it allows you to move freely and change plans more frequently during travel. If you're planning on getting the JR passes, do consider using the link in the description box below. It helps us make a small fee with no extra cost to you, which helps us keep this channel going. Now let's start with the big picture of the itinerary. This plan takes you over most of central Japan where all the major attractions are at. We only have 3 pit stops in this itinerary: Tokyo, Kyoto, and Kiso Valley. Fewer hops equal to fewer check-in checkouts equal to more time to travel and explore. This way you get to max out on your JR passes and keep your days flexible depending on the weather and the mood. Aren't they the same thing though? We'll start out by spending 3 days in the Tokyo metropolitan area and the next 2 days doing day trips from Tokyo. We will then head over to the Kiso Valley for 2 days in the midst of nature far from the cities. We will then spend 3 days exploring Kyoto city and the next 3 days taking day trips from Kyoto. On the last day, we head back to Tokyo for the flight out. We also have a few more recommendations on the day trips you could swap with the existing ones. More on that later. Japan series on our channel contains travel films for each of these legs, so do check them out after watching this video. Now let's get into the details. When you arrive in Tokyo, you land either in Haneda or Narita International Airport. After sorting out logistics like SIM cards and JR passes at the airport, you can take the metro to the Tokyo Station. Tokyo Station is the central transit hub for Tokyo. This station houses the Shinkansen, the regular Japan Rail, and the Tokyo Metro lines all under one roof. You will most likely find direct trains to wherever your hotels or Airbnbs are located from here. This station is also one of the best places to have your first meal before you check into your hotels. We would highly recommend the vegan ramen at Tea Stantan, but you can take your pick from many eateries at the station. If you're feeling a bit enthusiastic, you can step out and admire the 100-year-old Marunouchi station while eating off an ekiben, or go for a bout of train spotting at the many platforms in this hub. After lunch, you can check in and drop off your luggage at the hotel. You can begin the second half of the day with the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building in Shinjuku for free bird's-eye views of the city's skyline. Getting a big picture snapshot of the place we are going to be exploring is a great way to start any trip. As the sun sets, you can make your way into the beating heart of Tokyo, Shinjuku. Its neon lights and bold signage can feel a bit conspicuous at first, but it's the surest means to get introduced to the Tokyo way of things. We start by exploring the adult entertainment districts of Kabukicho. Walk across its many host and hostess bars and across its dingy love motels. Although considered somewhat the seedy underbelly of Tokyo, it's surprising how safe these streets actually are. You can then stumble into the narrow alleyways of Omoide Yokocho or the Memory Lane. This lane is filled with izakaya-style restaurants meant to serve suited-up regulars and starry-eyed tourists alike. We sat down for a meal of hot, delicious tempura soba at this teeny, all-vegetarian joint called Kameya, elbow to elbow with the somewhat shy but actually friendly locals. End your night with a round of pub hopping in the grungy back streets of Golden Gai. The dimly lit bylanes with the tumble-down mishmash of bars is sure to lead to an interesting conversation or two. We begin the second day early by heading over to the neighborhood of Asakusa. Asakusa is one of the more old-school, traditional neighborhoods of Tokyo's city. When in Asakusa, it is mandatory to pay a visit to the Sensoji Shrine, one of its oldest, boldest, and the grandest residents with lofty halls and truly epic entryways. Enter through the Kaminarimon gate by passing under the big red lantern with the dragon emblem underneath. Have your fortune told at the Omikuji wall and then make your way into the mesmerizing inner halls. Right across the shrine is a street called Nakomise Dori filled with small bites. Although a great spot for Japanese eats, you might want to brace yourself to scramble through the crowds. Our favorites were the Japanese pancakes that were a little more like biscuits, and then the red bean mochi. You can also try the many teppanyaki restaurants in the side streets. Post sundown, head over to the Electric Pound, or Akihabara. Akihabara is, and there's no other way to put it, totally lit. As the daylight starts to dim, its many towers and arcades start to sparkle with colorful signage and streets come alive with energy. Slip into one of the anime towers to get a taste of otaku, or the Japanese pop culture obsession firsthand. No doubt on the manga, but rest assured, some of the merch on the aisles will make your eyes pop. Akihabara is also a host to a range of second-hand stores and gadget stacks, so you could end up with a great deal if you keep an owl's eye out. End your night by visiting one of them weird cafes to meet some not-so-average Joes. Do ensure it is ethically run before stepping in though. We chose to go into a vanilla cat cafe, but no judgments if you're drawn to try some of the others. If you can time it for the weekend, head over to the Yoyogi Park for a bento picnic by the lake. The overall happy vibes and the weekend moods are a great way to blend in with the Tokyoite Sunday rituals. After some lounging, you can make your way to the Meiji Shrine, a short walk from the Yoyogi Park. This shrine is a homage to the Emperor Meiji and his wife and is surrounded by evergreen trees. Walk past its wall of sake barrel offerings on your way through, and if you get lucky, even catch a traditional Japanese wedding at the hall right outside. In the evening, you can explore the neighborhood of Shibuya. One of the most sought-after things to do in Shibuya is the Shibuya Crossing, which is known to be one of the busiest intersections in the world. If you're an animal lover or a fan of the movie Hachiko, you might also recognize this statue from the film. Hachiko is now the official mascot of the Shibuya Metro station and has a memorial right under the station. You can then take lazy strolls around Shibuya, play a round of pachinko if you don't mind losing a little, and proceed towards a karaoke bar for an hour of unrestrained, out-of-key singing. End your day with a sushi dinner in one of Shibuya's countless restaurants. Now let's get out of Tokyo City for a bit. Although you could spend weeks and months getting lost in the nooks and crannies of Tokyo, stepping out of this metropolis for a few day trips gives you a whole different flavor of Japan. On day 4, head out to Tokyo's favorite weekend getaway, Mount Takao. Hop on the JR Chuo line to Takao Station and get on the Keio line to the Takao Sanguchi Station. Do note that the Keio line is not covered by the JR Pass and you will have to pick up this ticket at the station. Mount Takao has many gorgeous trails you can take to the top, depending on your fitness levels and the time in hand. But if you're feeling lazy or are with kids, you could take the chair car to the top. The trail is filled with many small relics and shrines. Feel free to stop by for a round of mochi on your way to the top. Hike a little further to reach the Yaku-O-En temple with its many small shrines dedicated to the mountain spirits and Buddhist figures. After hitting the spiritual spots, it's time to fire off your taste buds. The Takahashiya restaurant at the base of Mount Takao serves insanely flavoursome mix of udon noodles. We tried the cold soba noodles with grated yam and a selection of locally sourced pickled vegetables off the mountain and absolutely loved it. The broth here deserves an episode in itself. We also happened to be here on an afternoon during this once-in-a-year Buddhist fire festival. But you could easily spend the time after your meal relaxing in one of the nearby onsens or by visiting the Takao Plum Grove before heading back to Tokyo. On day 5, make your way to the Yamanashi Prefecture in the Fuji 5 Lakes region for the best views of Mount Fuji. Start by taking the JR Chuo line from Shinjuku to the Otsuki station. Hop on the Fujinkyu railway line to Shimayoshida station. From Shimayoshida station, start walking up the hill. A 15-minute walk takes you to this 5-story pagoda, the Chiroito Pagoda. The viewing deck behind the pagoda gives you some of the best views of the majestic Mount Fuji. For better views, go early in the morning when there are lesser crowds. You could also take the train to Lake Kawaguchiko for gorgeous views of Mount Fuji. We had to give this a skip as we got a little too late. You can also go to the Fuji Q Highlands if you're into theme parks. Start day 6 by checking out of your hotel and taking the 2-hour JR Tokaido Shinkansen to Nagoya. Riding the Shinkansen is an experience in itself, so be sure to enjoy the views along the way. From Nagoya, take the JR Shinano Limited Express to Nakatsugawa, and then hop on a short bus ride to the charming coastal town of Magome. You are now in the Kiso Valley. The Kiso Valley takes you through some very scenic mountain trails and Edo period postal towns. Postal towns used to be rest stops for traders and members of the shogunate who were only allowed to go between the towns on foot during the Edo period. The town of Magome takes you back in time thanks to its vernacular wooden architecture and picturesque streets. Look for the notice boards describing the old shogunate rules and stop to admire the Ghibli-esque scenery. Explore a few tea houses and walk past water wheels for a meal of oyaki dumplings at an unassuming eatery. You could also visit the shogunate rest stops that are now converted to museums and stay at one of the overnight guest houses in Magome. Start day 7 by hiking the Nakasendo Trail between the towns of Magome and Tsumago. The 8-kilometer long trail takes about 3 to 4 hours to walk. It has beautiful stretches that take you through a forest path, towered by pines and alongside a river. This heritage trail has been walked for hundreds of years and was specially used by traders and shogunate to move between Old Tokyo and Kyoto. You may end up finding a few mossy stone carvings of guardian deities that are said to keep the travelers safe. Make sure to sound the bells to keep the bears at bay. At the halfway point, stop by the Tateba Tea House to feel like you've stepped into a different era. This old school tea house is run by an old man who ushers you in for a round of tea and pickled plums. After a refreshing dip at the Metaki waterfalls, walk a little further to arrive at the historic town of Tsumago. Walk the streets of Tsumago across rows of beautiful wooden houses. This town is the closest you can come to feeling completely drawn away from modern life. After checking out a couple of shrines, get a small snack before taking the bus back to Magome. You can then check out of Magome and retrace your steps back to Nagoya before heading out to Kyoto by the JR Tokaido Shinkansen. Day 8. Kyoto City is known for being the cultural and historic epicenter of Japan. However, in spring, this takes a whole new meaning. Streets lined with sakura welcome you into charming old school neighborhoods reminding you of a bygone age. Start day 8 super early by walking up the streets next to the Yasaka Pagoda all the way to the Kiyomizu-dera temple. Climb the steps of the old temple to catch the views of Kyoto through the golden gates. After a ritual cleanse at the Dragon Waterfall, take in the smells of incense and sound the gong at the main prayer hall. Try your hand at lifting the iron spear that could make you a protector of this great temple. It's considered a rite of passage around here. Peek down the 40-foot tall stage that doubles up as viewing deck before heading down for a memorable meal at the Takinoya. This absolute boon for vegetarians serves bucketfuls of steaming tofu with a delicious soy-based sauce. The kitsune udon and kitsune soba can be slurped up under the trees. Post sundown, you can make your way to the Gion district, which is reminiscent of ancient Kyoto. The Gion district has long been associated with geishas, the upper-class entertainers of traditional Japan. When in Gion, you can sense that quiet mystique in the air, the promise of tradition calling out from the narrow alleyways. Walk the streets along the Shirakawa Canal next to the Okiyas and the Ochayas, until you step into the dreamy shrine, the Tatsumi Jinja. Sink your teeth into the fresh sakura mochi at the Shijodori and end your walk at the Osaka shrine that's been around forever. Go geisha spotting in the old school bylanes of Hanamikoji. The geishas have been in Kyoto for centuries and have been shrouded in secrecy. When you see a geiko, remember to gasp and let her pass. On day 9, head towards the famous Shinto shrine Fushimi Inari in the rice and sake district of Fushimi. Hike up the iconic orange torii gates interwoven into the forest greens. Beyond the infinite number of vermilion gates, there are also small shrines to be explored along the mountain. Some dedicated to foxes, some to frogs. At the bottom is the main temple where most of the crowds hang out. So make sure to start your walk early if you want to escape some of the chaos. Towards the end of the hike, you get some of the best views of Tokyo city. At noon, make your way to the Nishiki market, also known as Kyoto's kitchen. This 5-block market is full of local eats and interesting tasty tidbits for everyone to try. If you are a seafood buff, you may find this next to culinary nirvana. At the end of the market is this shrine said to bring luck in business and in learning. Us being vegetarians, the strawberry mochi shaped like hungry Pac-Man and the matcha ice cream were our favorite finds from here. A walk by the Kamo River at sunset is almost inevitable in Kyoto. Taking the sounds of everyday life, watch a kid learning to ride its first bike, the sounds of an early family dinner from the row of restaurants running alongside. Head over to the steamy alleyways of Pontocho as the sunlight dims out to dark. Pontocho boasts of some of the best eateries in town, supported by some pretty atmospheric scenes. We highly recommend Yasube, which serves okonomiyaki or grilled egg pancakes dipped in sauce. The noodles that sizzles on the grill does offer quite a tough contest though. Day 10. To explore North Higashiyama in its most authentic form, start out at the Philosopher's Path early in the morning. This means you encounter fewer tourists and get to enjoy the blossoms uninterrupted. The Philosopher's Path is one of the best places for hanami or sakura spotting in spring. Watch life take shape around the canal and enjoy the many little sights around it. This path is said to have inspired many poets and philosophers, and when you walk its length, you start to see why. If you get there in time, you might spot a few snooty Kyoto felines being fed by friendly strangers or two. Towards the end of the Philosopher's Path, make your way to the gates of the 1,000-year-old Zen temple grounds of Nanzenji. The temple complex houses a school of Renzai Zen Buddhism whose breadth is spectacular when seen from the top of its gate. Light the incense, take in the purifying smells, offer prayers at the main Buddha hall, and then step into the red brick archways of an old aqueduct that links Kyoto city to a lake. The natural frames make for a great photo op and it's hard to miss. End your stroll with a short uphill hike through the temple's forests to a secluded shrine. You will see many offerings to relatively smaller guardian figures on your way up to the teeny waterfall. This waterfall seems to have been used for a form of meditation by Zen masters. When coming down the Philosopher's Path from Nanzenji Temple, you may encounter this tiny little restaurant with very long queues. Having eaten in Hinode, Kyoto, we feel it's safe to say that it's totally worth the wait. Till date, our favorite meal of noodles ever has been the curry udon here. Our 2 bowls of curry udon were massive, piping hot and super filling. The Hinode Kyoto is quite in demand, so we would advise you to come here at least 1 or 2 hours before your mealtime to beat the crowds. Start day 11 with the train hop to the temple city of Nara. Nara is best known for its sika deer that are found in its streets and shrines. They are protected in the temple grounds, so walk the length of Nara Park to feed rice crackers to a few hungry and somewhat rowdy 4-legged friends. The deer park is lined with stoned lanterns that are supposedly beautiful when lit, at dawn and during twilight. Make your way to the Kasuga Taisha shrine and walk through its orange corridors lined with hundreds of bronze lanterns. Check out the giant cedar tree at the entrance that is supposedly 1,000 years old. Offer respects at the main shrine while also making time to walk through the many spaces and lantern-filled shrines within the complex. By now, if you have built an appetite, head over to a meal of scrumptious udon at the Mizuya Chaya tea house right outside the Kasuga Taisha shrine. Its broth is delicious, but what knocks this meal out of the park is its phenomenal tempura. It's probably noon and you can head over to the Todaiji, which houses one of the largest bronze Buddhas. There are absolutely no words to describe this monument and its sheer scale. Massive towering bodhisattvas and other guardian deities can be found inside the Buddha hall. You could exit at the Nandaimon gate, but don't be too surprised if you're met by deer begging for senbei or the rice crackers on your way out. On your way back to the Nara station, stop at the Nakatanidao Mochi for a round of truly well-pounded matcha mochi filled with sweet red bean paste. If you lean towards the savory side, then go next door for rice crackers coated in Japanese 7 spices blend for an easy swap. On day 12, take the late morning Shinkansen to Osaka and hit up Osaka's funky downtown area, otherwise known as Shinsekai. This steel structure called as the Sutentaku Tower dominates Osaka's skyline in this part of the town. Make sure to stop by the unofficial mascots of Osaka, the Billikens. A rub on their knee is supposed to bring good luck. After some walking around, if you have managed to work up an appetite, head over to this cozy yet bustling eatery known as Okonomiyaki Chitose. Hands down, this is one of the best meals we have had in Japan, and we promise it lives up to the hype and reviews. We had 2 okonomiyakis filled with mochi and cheese and another with yakisoba, which were both out of this world. We do not exaggerate when we say this is food that can take you to places. When the light starts to turn, head over to the Hozenji Shrine in the Hozenji Yokocho Street. This shrine is secretly responsible for the active food and restaurant scene around this area. Do watch out for some friendly cats that loiter about the prayer spaces. While praying, it is customary to water the moss statue of the Buddha. This is the only remnant of the original shrine that was destroyed during the World War bombings. Osaka as the hyper-energetic neon city comes to life after dark. Take a walk by the canal or Dotonbori as it's better known, consider even taking the river cruise. Walk through the lanes and take your pick of street side eats as you soak up that Osaka nighttime energy, and end your night by taking a picture with the iconic Glico sign. Start day 13 by taking a 2.5 hour long train to the coast of Kanazawa. Kanazawa is a relatively quieter city with a reputation for temperamental weather. You can start exploring Kanazawa with the Kenrokuen Gardens. For a taste of Japanese landscaping at its scenic best, sip a cup of matcha tea with a breathtaking view of the lake if you're feeling up for it. Walk through the manicured walkways and the plum grove and end your exploration at the famous Karasaki Pines. You can then head north towards the Asano River to explore the riverside geisha district of Kazuemachi with its old school buildings reminiscent of feudal Japan. This is a lot less crowded than its touristy counterparts and in our minds a lot more scenic. You can then head over to the Higashi Chaya district, the largest of geisha districts in Kanazawa. This locale boasts of several geisha performances and even lets visitors into 2 of its perfectly preserved tea houses or chaya. We visited the Shima Tea House, which is complete with its entertainment rooms, waiting areas, along with central courtyard. We are now close to 2 full weeks in Japan. If you, like us, begin to crave for some good Indian dinner, make your way to Ashirwad Indian Restaurant for some of the tastiest naan and curries. After the meal, you can take the late night back to Kyoto. On day 14, take the Shinkansen back to Tokyo for your flight out. If you have some extra time, you can store your luggage in one of the lockers of the Tokyo station and spend a few hours shopping in either Shinjuku, Akihabara or Shibuya before heading to the airport for the evening flight. The day trips mentioned in this itinerary are the ones we have tried and tested. However, you could easily switch these up depending on your travel style and preferences. If you're looking for alternative day trips from Tokyo, you can go visiting the onsen town of Okone for its hot springs, the Ghibli Museum if Miyazaki runs through your blood, or if you're the outdoorsy kind, you can even choose to spend a few days hiking Mount Fuji. When in Kyoto, you could also visit Hiroshima for its peace memorial and the floating torii at Miyajima Island, a quaint heritage village called Shirakawa-go accessible by a somewhat longish journey, or you could go to Kobe for its food. So this is it, our perfect 14-day itinerary that completely explores this beautiful country. If you're wondering how these experiences played out, do check out our Japan playlist to get a full download. Let us now address the dinosaur in the elevator. Cost. For a 2-week trip that we took in the March of 2023, this was the breakdown. Flights, accommodation, internal transport, food and miscellaneous. And the grand total was ways to get smart. If you plan a 10-day vacation, you can bring down your JR Pass costs by almost half by going for a 1-week pass instead of a 2-week one. Depending on how often you eat out, you can end up saving quite a bit. Cooking at your Airbnb will help reduce costs considerably. Groceries are easy to shop for and are reasonably priced. Approximately speaking, 1 meal for 2 in an average restaurant will cost about the same as cooking 3 meals at your Airbnb. For all the vegetarians out there, we have a series of vegetarian pocket-friendly food guides on our Instagram channel, so make sure to check that out. Rent out Airbnbs instead of hotels. They are so much more economical and give you a taste of residential life in a new place. They come with kitchens attached, which means you can stay out till whenever with little stress of finding a place to eat. If you're looking for a great way to get initiated into all things Japan on day 1 of your travel, we've got a great video on that, so make sure to check it out before you go. If you enjoyed watching this video, then do consider subscribing to our channel. It may just be a click or a tap for you, but it helps us more than you'll ever know. Also leave us a comment if you think of something nice to say. It really helps us to keep this going. We've also got similar series for Iceland, Bali and Kerala, so make sure to check that out as well. Until we see you in a new place and a new time, take care and keep exploring.